About infrastructure established in 2016, we are one of the finest security and technology training and consulting company. Wide range of professional training programs, certifications, and consulting services in the IT and cybersecurity domain. High quality technical services, certifications, or customized training programs curated with professionals of over 15 years of combined experience in the domain. Here are our endorsements: 4+ years of services, 70+ pool of trainers, 200+ courses offering, 30,000+ professional trained, 10+ valued partners, 150+ corporate delivery, 20+ countries. So these are our trusted clients. And why InfoSec train? So first of all, the trainers over here, the instructors over here, they are certified and experienced instructors, and we have a flexible modes of training, like as per like timing is not an issue over here. Access to the recorded sessions, whatever the sessions we go through, we record those sessions, and those sessions are provided to you. You have accessibility to them. Post-training completion support is also there, and tailor-made training. So as per the requirements, custom requirements, the training can also be provided. Now, our agenda as mentioned, we go with some interview questions, some enhancing problem solving skills, additional tips, and some Q&A at the end from your end. Okay. Now, next thing is Security Operations Center, which we are going to discuss about. When we talk about SOC, what do you understand by the term SOC? Although we'll talk about different questions, but first question is there: what is SOC to you? It's a centralized unit. Okay. SOC, when you talk about just about the SOC, it's more of a business unit. It's a centralized unit which does what? It detects, or it helps in terms of the security issues related to your operational and technical level. Okay, so what it does, this centralized unit, so yes, as you guys have mentioned, help us to identify, you can say monitoring, right? Or you can say detect, respond against the cyber threats. Correct. So if there is any attack, for example, we try to make sure with the Security Operations Center, first we are monitoring the entire environment of the organization, right? What all things are happening, so that in case if there is any malicious activity going on, we'll be able to detect it. We'll be able to identify what kind of activity it is going on, and in respect to that, we'll put the responses. We'll try to mitigate it. Exactly, Shiny. Right? Make sense? And then yes, some further reporting documentation will be done, in which if any policies or processes are need to be changed, need to be revised, those things will also be done. So it helps us to make sure our environment is having the adequate amount of security. It is also complied with the security. That is one of the most important thing, and help us to protect the brand reputation of the organization, which is the most important thing for the organization, right? That is what SOC is. Perfect. So that is SOC for us. Okay. Now in SOC, different things are there, right? Different scenarios occurs in the SOC when you talk about any situation or any incident occurring over there. So when we're talking about in perspective of interview based questions, earlier what used to happen, earlier we just simply get, to be very honest, earlier we used to get simply like one liner questions like what is CIA triad, or like what is an attack in confidentiality. These kind of a question used to be up previously. Nowadays what happens, more of a situation, the scenario based questions has been put on. Okay, now for example, you guys can also participate into that. You can also give your you can say inputs into this, because few people are already having experience over here. So first question is, for example, if an interview asks you that you notice multiple employees have received a phishing email that looks convincingly like a legitimate internal communication, what immediate actions would you take to mitigate the risk and protect the organization? So as per the pointers which we can see, like when you have to answer, you can look out for these quick pointers whenever you answer these kind of questions. So you can segregate your answers in these formats: alert and communicate, right? What I meant with that is, you can look out for the communication, internal communication, immediately sending out the company-wide alert by whatever multiple communication channels are there. and clearly also describe the characteristics of the phishing email, like whatever the sender address is mentioned over there, the subject line, and any key indicators of those phishing. Okay. Then security team notification will be there, so you can notify the security team and the SOC analyst about the phishing attempt, provide them with a copy of the phishing email for further analysis, right? Then technical measures will be taken place over here. Awareness, right? Tamo, correct? Priyanka, nice, correct. So when I'm saying technical measures, so you can look out for the email filtering, right? You can work with the IT team to adjust the email filters and block the sender's email address, as you guys have mentioned, right? Any associated domains over there or any IP address, correct? So this will be helping us. This will be helping us to prevent further distribution of this phishing email in the organization, right? And you also mentioned that along with the email filtering, quarantining as well. Quarantine the emails as well, right? So you use email security tools to identify and to quarantine any phishing email that have not yet been opened by the employees, correct? And you can also use anti-phishing tools to make sure that anti-phishing tools and your browser extension, they're up to date and properly configured across all employee devices. You have to make sure those are updated as well, so that we can just block those kind of phishing emails over there. Now, in case if anything happens, like incident response can also be there. Okay, so in incident response, what we can do is we can say we'll be identifying those who are affected users if there is any. Okay, so we will use the email logs to identify all the recipients of the phishing email. We reach out to these individuals to make sure that they are aware of the phishing attempt, right? We'll analyze the email, we'll analyze the phishing email to understand the tactics we used, like any malicious link or any attachment which is attached over there in that email, and we'll determine if any employee has clicked on links or opened the attachments, and as per that we'll take the appropriate actions. Okay, we'll scan those affected systems for any kind of a malware over there, right? And we'll check for any compromisation as well. So we'll monitor for any signs of account compromise or any unusual activity which are related to the phishing attempt. So we will check for if maybe there can be any unauthorized logins or password changes or data access in the environment, right? And further, one common will be there that employee training should be there after that, and it has to be done every year to make people aware about these kind of things, right? So you should do the training sessions. So these employee training and support should be there. So you will be containing like training sessions over there. So conducting like these training sessions or sending out educational materials to remind employees about these kind of dangerous things which phishing can do, or how phishing can harm us, or what kind of how you can identify if there's any phishing email, right? So this will be helping us to protect our organization, because what happens, phishing is going to be very common. It has been common. It's going to be very common in the future as well. Because see, for attacker, if you have to ask you this question, think about in that perspective. For an attacker, which one is a more easier way? Either targeting an employee or a human, or cracking the passwords or finding a vulnerability and exploiting it. Which one do you think is a more easier way? Why so? Because we have this nature to trust, nature to believe, and we are considered as the weakest link. Aniket, exactly. Without proper training, humans are considered to be the weakest link, right? So that's why, and we are the ones those who can go inside the organization and those who can also get outside the organization as well. So we can carry the attack in short, right? And it's very easy to trick. Correct, Priyanka, exactly. So social engineering attacks can be performed more easily over there, right? So that's the reason these employee training should be there. And apart from that, you should also strengthen your security posture. The fifth pointer over here. Strengthen security posture, right? So you can use MFA, multi-factor authentication. You can enforce it for all the employees' accounts to make an additional layer of security for the compromised credentials, which can be done using the phishing one, right? Ravinder, correct. I agree with that. Exactly. So you can perform this for standing security posture. You can go with the MFA. You can do regular phishing tests in the organization, and you can review your security policies also. Okay, so you can review and update security policies, and also incident response plans to make sure they are effective in handling the phishing attacks or any other social engineering attacks over there. These kind of threats, right? So let's suppose you can also give an example like, okay, that in my previous role, my organization experienced a phishing attack where employees received emails that appeared to come from HR department, and that email was requesting them to click on a link to update their payroll information. So you can also explain like how you handle that situation. You can say like, I alerted in communication was there. So we sent an urgency company-wide email alert and posted messages on our internal communication channels, warning the employees about the phishing emails and instructing them to delete it immediately, right? And the security team was immediately notified and provided with a copy of the phishing email for analysis for process. Then technical measures were taken into their place. The ID team adjusted our email filters to block the sender's email address and any associated domain with that. And using our email security tools, we identified and quarantined all phishing emails that were still in employees' inboxes and had not been opened. Then incident response, you can say. So we identified all recipients of the phishing email and directly inform them about the phishing attempt. So our security analysts, you can say, they analyzed the email and found a malicious link which was designed to steal employees' credentials. So we checked our logs to make sure no employee had clicked on the link, and we monitored for any sign of compromised account or any unusual activity, and we found none of it, confirming that okay, that immediate actions have been taken and they were very effective. And then further, we conducted a quick refresher training session on phishing awareness, and we gave them a detailed guidelines on how to recognize the phishing emails also, which help. And post that, we strengthened our security posture. We enabled MFA, multi-factor authentication over there, right, to make sure that accounts are not compromised, and we provided additional layer of security, and we implemented regular phishing simulation tests to make sure our employees are have this ability to detect the phishing attempts. And yeah, so these things will be there how you can answer these kind of questions for phishing email response. So you can point out, or you can see the couple of pointers while you're answering it. So let me write it. You can say integration first of all. I can see a couple of you have already answered this one. Integrate it with your security tools. Right, nice. You can say you can get some contextual ideas or enrichment over there, and it can be helpful in terms of proactive, because threat intelligence is proactive, right, and can be helpful for your threat hunting as well. I'll tell you that, and incident response as well. Okay, so when I'm saying integration with security tools, as you guys have mentioned, a couple of you have already answered this one. So integrating threat intelligence feed with your SIM solutions, okay, you can do that with your endpoint protection tools. You can do that. Okay, so it will be like automating the ingestion of threat intelligence to make sure we are getting the real-time updates and we are getting the actionable information over there. So we are integrating the threat intelligence with our SIM solutions, so that in case if there is any uh, 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 you know presence of those IOCs, it will be helping us to detect them, right? Contextual enrichment, yes. So you can use the threat intelligence to provide you context for security alerts. This would be like including the details about threat actors, attacking vectors, your known IOCs. So you can use it for making the alerts with threat intelligence. It will be helping us to also prioritize the incidents and focus on the most significant threats over there. Thirdly, which is saying about the proactive threat hunting. Uh, Threat hunting is what? It is helpful us to decrease the dwell time, right? If you know about the threat hunting, we hunt down for a malware, we hunt down for any presence of a threat in our environment, and we try to capture it. If our security tools, even if they fail to detect it, we have threat hunting to manually hunt down for those threats in the environment, right? Exactly, Aniket, we have that. So it's a proactive approach. So we also use threat intelligence over there so that we can guide our proactive threat hunting efforts, right? It will be involving like, we'll be searching for IOCs in our environment that will be matching with the known threats. We'll be conducting the regular hunts based on those threats which are emerging, and we'll look out for those TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures which are there in our threat intelligence report. Also, it can be helpful in our incident response. So during any incident, you can say you can take an advantage of threat intelligence to understand the scope and the nature of the attack. So everything, it will be including like, you know, your identifying any IOCs. You'll understand the attackers modus operandi with the help of this, how they perform an attack, right? You will use threat intelligence to inform any remediation strategies, right? And what can be, it will be helping us to also anticipate what's the potential next step of the attacker. That's what threat intelligence is used for, right? That's where you can use your MITRE ATT&CK framework as well to identify those things, isn't it? So yeah, these things are there. So you can say like, you know, earlier, like, you know, your threat intelligence feed, like in your previous role when you're trying to give an interview, you can say your threat intelligence feed, they reported a surge in attacks exploiting a zero-day vulnerability in a popular web application framework, let's suppose. So the feed included some IOCs like specific IP address and domains which are associated with the attack. So what you did, you immediately checked for SIM for any sign of activity related to those IOCs and found several attempts to actually exploit the vulnerability. So while none were successful due to our existing defenses, the intelligence allows us to take additional precautionary measures, and we patched the affected systems and updated our web application firewall and implied the rules to block any malicious block the malicious IPs and preventing our environment from that potential exploitation. So in that approach, what happened? That was a proactive approach, which was guided by the threat intelligence, and we improved our security posture along with that. So this is how you can portray your answers. You can just cut it down into these quick pointers first of all, and then you can give an example that how you handle it. Anil, I just did that, right? Next is regarding vulnerability assessment and management. Although, like, okay, in SOC, we can also include at times like for the vulnerability assessment management. Basically, this is just to check also how you are, how much is your knowledge in terms of different sectors as well, right? And like vulnerability assessment management. So after, for example, after running a vulnerability scan, you identify several critical vulnerabilities in your infrastructure. How do you prioritize which vulnerabilities address first, and what steps do you take to remediate them? Okay, so your, like, how much understanding you have from different sectors, this is also asking for the same thing. So how would you answer this question? What would be your take on this one? So what we can do over here, we'll assess criticality and impact. We'll evaluate the exploitability. We'll also determine the exposure. I'll explain them and how much business impact it would do. Okay, so it's like you will evaluate the CVSS, assess criticality and impact. So I will agree with you guys as you have given a good answer over here. Common vulnerability scoring system, right? Scores for each vulnerability. Higher the score, it tells you more critical vulnerability it is, right? So that is one thing. We'll consider the potential impact on the business if the vulnerability were exploited. So for example, if vulnerability is in a customer facing application, it might be more critical than one in an internal one, right? Then we evaluate the exploitability. Yes, we check if there are known exploits available for the vulnerabilities which has been identified. So we prioritize the vulnerabilities that are being actively exploited as per our threat intelligence feeds over here. We can include that as well. And we determine the exposure also. So we identify if the vulnerable systems are exposed to the internet, right? Whether they are exposed to the internet or whether they are behind the multiple layers of defense. Right? We have to check that as well. So because publicly accessible systems, they are generally higher priority for the remediation as compared to the ones which are internal ones or behind the layers of defense. Then we also look out for the key pointer, which is business impact. We assess the potential downtime and the impact on the business operations which are required to patch each vulnerability. So based on, you balance that urgency of patching with the need to maintain the business continuity. So you can say you will be going with the patch management in terms of remediation. If you ask me, like, what are the steps do you take to remediate them? So you can go with the patch management. You apply patches or updates provided by the software or hardware vendors, right? So we can schedule that patch deployment during maintenance windows to minimize our business disruptions. And mitigation measures will be there. So if immediate patching is not possible, we'll implement temporary mitigation like disabling vulnerable services or blocking malicious IP address or applying the configuration changes over there, like in compensating controls. Then verification will also be there in terms of remediation. After applying the patches, we'll conduct the vulnerability scan again to make sure the vulnerabilities has been successfully remediated. Okay, so when we are talking about in terms of remediation, as I mentioned, in the remediation part, what we'll do, we'll go with a patch management will be there, right? We'll go with the mitigation measures, right? Like we can go with the this compensating controls, like in case if patch is not available, we'll go with the temporary mitigation solutions. Then verification, again we'll perform the vulnerability scan to make sure the vulnerabilities which were identified are completely gone, they're not there. And finally, last one will be like a document and reporting things over there. Okay, so document the vulnerabilities, steps taken for remediation, or any lesson learned over there. So we report the remediation status to stakeholders and maintain a record for compliance purposes also. So you can say, like, for example, in my previous role, our vulnerability scan revealed a critical vulnerability in an external facing web application server. Maybe like, okay, there would be a CV, for example, like CVE, any I'm writing like randomly any number 2020 1472, and it was having a CVSS score of, let's suppose, 10.0. So we know it's a critical one. So there were known exploits for this vulnerability, which was making it high priority for us, high priority, right? So we immediately patched the server during an off-peak time and verified the patching through the scan, right? After that, to make sure that, okay, the vulnerabilities has been completely removed, right? And then we reviewed and tightened our firewall rules also to make it further secure to make it further server to make it more secure, right? So we tightened our firewall rules also for further securement. So these things can also be put out when you're giving an answer in terms of your vulnerability assessment and management. Then we have intrusion detection. Your IDS IPS has detected suspicious activity that indicates a possible intrusion. Walk us through your process for investigating and responding to this alert in real time. What will you do? The IDS IPS has detected suspicious activity that indicates a possible intrusion. Walk us through your process for investigating and responding to this alert in real time. Legitimate or not? Very good answer, Dinesh. Right. Shiny, perfect, Bhupendra. Correct. Okay. Do you know what is incident triage? Incident alert triage. Right? Exactly, Abhishek. Correct. So we'll review the alert, right? The alert which was provided by the IDS IPS. So it will be including the source and destination IP address, the timestamp, the types of suspicious activity, and any threat signatures, you can say, or any IOC related to that, right? Perfect. So yes, so we'll do the triage. We'll make sure whether it is a false positive or true positive or what kind of an alert it is. It could be a false positive as well, right? So we'll make sure we'll validate it, then we'll verify it's really an incident or it's really a intrusion over there, or not just a false positive, not a fake alarm, right? So we'll call for the evidence and we'll make sure it's not a false positive. So you can say an instant alert triage. Then also, if it's a true positive, what we will do if there's an intrusion? From incident response perspective, can we say we'll go with the containment part once we have confirmed it's an intrusion, right? So we'll confirm the validity of the alert. We'll look out for its evidences in the security logs, right? So that we can rule out whether it's a false positive or not. Correct. Then we'll figure out which system or user are affected by that suspicious activity. So this will be doing what? This will be helping us to narrow down the scope of our investigation. Then we'll do what? We'll do the containment, right? Exactly. So we'll isolate the affected systems over there, Okay, just like in corona, when someone was got affected by a coronavirus, we used to isolate them so that it won't spread out. Similarly, we'll go with the containment over here. We'll isolate the affected system. Okay, so if the alert is confirmed, it's legitimate one. Okay, and it tells you it's a potential compromise, so we'll take the immediate steps to isolate the affected systems from the network so that we can prevent its further spread of the intrusion over there, right? And yes, we'll block the malicious IPs also, correct, over there. So we'll use firewall rules or IDS IPs capabilities to block the traffic from that suspicious IP address or the domains which were identified in our alert. And then further, we can, yes, we can go for the in-depth analysis, isn't it? Further, we can go over the intent analysis. We can analyze the traffic patterns. We can conduct a deeper analysis of network traffic patterns so that we can understand the nature of the suspicious activity. We can look out for the signs of data exfiltration, command and control communication, or any lateral movement within the network, if there is any, right? So we'll examine the logs. We'll look out for the artifacts, those proof. So we'll review our system logs. We'll review the application logs, and we'll look out for the any other relevant artifacts we can say on our affected systems, so that we can gather more details about that intrusion. We'll look out for any unusual process, any file changes, or any unauthorized access attempts over there. And as per that, a response will be taken place. Here's my pen. Incident response will be, yeah. So we'll be engaging our incident response team, right? We'll engage the broader, in case if it's a high thing, we'll broader our incident response team to assist with the investigation and containment efforts over there, right? So we'll preserve the evidences. We'll make sure that the all relevant logs, network captures, and other forensic evidence, they are preserved for further analysis and for any potential legal proceeding further, right? And then we go with the remediation. We'll identify the root cause, right? We'll identify the vulnerabilities or misconfiguration that were exploited by the attacker, and then we'll fix it. We'll eradicate it as well, right? In remediation part. Finding the root cause and fixing it up, implementing the patch, mitigating it, applying the necessary patches, updating the security configuration, implementing the additional security controls so that we can prevent similar incident in the future. And then we go the recovery to recover the data if there is any loss. And yes, documentation, Priyanka, I agree with that. Further will be documentation at the end, right? So reporting, we can say communication reporting would be the end part. So yes, you can say if there is any IDS IPS alert indicating any potential brute force attack targeting the organization, VPN gateway maybe. So you'll go with the investigation steps. We will have this initial alert state or alert triage. The alert shows multiple failed login attempts from a single IP address targeting VPN gateway, right? So you'll review the alert details. You'll include the timestamps, IP addresses. Then you go for the further investigation into that. You'll check VPN logs to verify the failed login attempts, and you identify the usernames which are targeted, right? You'll look out for the cross references. You'll the suspicious IP address. You'll go with the threat intelligence sources to check if there's any known malicious activity in which this IP has been involved or not, like whether that IP address is a red flag or a green flag. We'll check its reputation, right? Then you go for the containment. We'll temporarily block the suspicious IP address using the firewalls to prevent the further login attempts. And we will notify the IT team to monitor for any additional suspicious activity. And then we go for the in-depth analysis. We analyze VPN logs to determine if any successful login has been occurred from that suspicious IP address. Then we'll review other network logs also to identify any lateral movement or any additional malicious activity. Then simply we go with the incident response. We'll involve the incident response team to assist with further investigation and containment. We'll preserve the logs and we'll do the network captures for further forensic analysis also. And simply go with the remediation. We'll identify if any user account were compromised. If they were compromised, we'll reset the password and enable your multi-factor authentication for affected accounts, and then apply necessary patches or updates to the VPN gateway to mitigate any vulnerability. And then simply recovery, restore normal access to the legitimate users while maintaining the proper monitoring. And then we make sure all compromised accounts and systems are fully secured. And we'll finally create a report regarding that and send it to the stakeholders. Right? Okay. So for example, okay, next one is SIEM analysis. You receive multiple SIEM alerts for unusual or login attempts from various geographic locations. Describe your real-time approach to analyze these alerts and determine if they indicate a coordinated attack. Again, incident triage will be there, first of all, right? Correlation analysis, account will be analyzed, and further, one detailed investigation, we can say. And immediate response and action. So yeah, I've also written quick pointers over here. So initial triage will be there, as we have just discussed about the same. We'll verify the alerts and do the priority over there. Like, we'll confirm that the alerts are legitimate, not a false positive, right? And we determine the severity and priority of the alerts based on the factors like number of attempts, sensitivity of the targeted account, and the geographic distribution of the login attempts. Then we go for the correlation analysis. We identify the patterns over here. Actually, we use SIEM's correlation rule to identify patterns across the alerts. We look out for any common things like same user account being targeted, similar IP addresses which are ranges, or or the use of similar user agents, right? Those things we look out for. Then we'll cross reference with our threat intelligence also. We'll take the alert data, we'll use that with threat intelligence to check if the IP address or user agents are involved and are known to be associated with malicious activities or not, right? As you guys have answered it. Then we go for the geo analysis. Yes. So we analyze the geographic distribution. We map the geographic locations of the login attempts to identify if they are coming from a region with a high likelihood of malicious activity. Unusual login attempts from multiple, you know, disparate locations in a short time frame can be a strong indicator actually of a coordinated attack, isn't it? If you're getting multiple login attempts from multiple different location in a short time frame, it can be a strong indicator that okay, some are performing this coordinated attack. Aniket, yes, UAB pattern matching. Exactly, I will agree with that. Then time analysis, check the timestamp of the login attempt to determine if they are occurring simultaneously or in a sequence that will be suggesting any coordination over there, right? Then account analysis, we check the targeted account, we determine which account are being targeted, focus on high value accounts like administrator or user with elevated privileges like that. And we verify the login patterns also. We compare the login attempts with the typical login patterns of the target user. Unusual patterns, if they are like such as like login from different countries within a short time frame, can be indicating account compromise over there. And further, we'll go with the detailed investigation. We'll go with the log review. All right. We'll detail review will be there, right? Detailed review will be there of the logs which are associated with the alert. So we look out for if there is any additional suspicious activity like multiple failed login attempts or password. You guys have mentioned password reset attempts or any unusual access patterns after login, in that way. And we also look out for the endpoint analysis. If possible, we'll check the endpoints which are involved in the login attempts for signs of any compromise or any malware over there. And then immediate response actions will be taken. We'll lock the accounts, right? As you have mentioned, if you suspect account compromise, we lock the affected account to prevent any further unauthorized access. And then we reset the password. Like it's like initiating the password resets for compromised accounts, and we make sure MFA is enabled over there and blocking the IP, right? That suspicious IP address. So these things will be there. So you can say like, if it is asked, you can explain this like, okay, in my previous role, we received multiple SIM alerts for login attempts from various geographic locations, which were targeting several high privilege accounts. So you can explain what we did or what you did as an approach to this situation. So you can say I did with the triage and correlation. So we confirmed the alerts were valid, and we use SIM correlation rules to identify that the same account were being targeted with login attempts from IP address in different countries. And we get for the geo analysis also after that. The login attempts were occurring almost simultaneously from countries where we had no users, which is indicating a high likelihood of a coordinated attack. Then we went for the detailed investigation. We reviewed the logs, which showed multiple failed attempts, which were which was followed by a successful login for one account. You can say. So we got multiple login failure attempts. You can say those HTTPS codes were there. Response code, HTTP response code. You can look out for them. And then we got one successful login. Right. Earlier we were getting the failed login attempts. Then we got a one successful login attempt from one account. So we also notice unusual activities like from that account, like maybe any access to sensitive files just after it got logged in. So we got first failure, multiple failure, and then all of a sudden we got successful login attempt for an account. And from that account, what we also got to know is that that account was accessing sensitive file just after it got successful login attempt. Then we took the immediate response over there. We immediately logged the affected account and we reset their password and enforce the multi-factor authentication. And we also blocked that IP address at the firewall, right? And then communication was also there for further, like SOC team, they were briefed and the affected user were notified to monitor their accounts, and post-incident analysis were there. So incident reports was created, and they updated their security policies to include stricter monitoring of login attempts, and gave the training to the employees to identify the phishing attempts also, in case if this thing happens via phishing attempt, right? So these things are there. Dinesh, absolutely, these things are made for that. Yes. One last bit regarding in terms of communication during an incident. An ongoing security incident requires you to communicate with both technical teams and executive management. How do you balance providing technical details and high-level summaries in real time to ensure everyone is informed and aligned? So you can simply say that I would prepare two separate reports, one detailed technical report for the technical teams and a high-level summary for the executive management, because you know your executive management is not much technical, right? Isn't it? So they work in the terms of fact and figures, you can say. So technical report would include specifics such as nature of the incident, affected systems, technical indicators, and whatever the immediate actions which you have taken. High level summary would be focusing on overall impact, the business risk, importantly, and the steps which were taken to mitigate the issue, and any required executive decisions over there. So regular updates make sure that both teams are informed of the latest developments. For example, like during a significant data breach, you can say providing or giving this detailed report to the IT team help in quick remediation, while high-level summaries kept the executive management informed about the impact and the response strategies in respect to that. Okay, check exactly. Like that is what I'm talking about in terms of more facts and figures, right? Yes, enhancing problem solving skills. How you can do that? Satish, exactly. See what? Yes, agree with that. Enhancing problem solving skills. Yes, so it's like you should understand common threats and vulnerabilities so that you can enhance your own problem solving skills for these job interviews. So understand common threats and vulnerabilities, stay updated to the latest cyber security threats and vulnerabilities, like regarding any malware, phishing, ransomware, or any zero-day exploit which are happening, right? So like it's like regularly read the cybersecurity blogs, attend webinars, participate in security forums, know how recent attacks are happening in that way, and practice incident response scenarios. Familiarize yourself with different types of security incidents and practice how to respond to them effectively. We have a lot of gamification platforms, you can use them, and create a mock incident response plan for a simulated phishing attack. So you can document your steps for detection to eradication and recovery. So this will be helping you to build your structured approach to handle those real incidents, and develop your analytical thinking. Improve your ability to analyze logs, alerts, and other data sources so that you can identify patterns and anomalies over there, right? So you use tools like Splunk or QRadar to practice log analysis, create queries, find unusual login attempts or unauthorized file access. So this hands-on experience actually will improve your data interpretation skills and enhance your technical knowledge, right? Deepen your understanding of network protocols, operating systems, security tools, set up a lab environment to practice configuring firewalls, IDS, IPS, SIM systems, get that thing, and improve your communication skills. Be able to clearly explain your technical issues to both technical and non-technical audience also, right? And stay calm under the pressure. Security incidents, they can be very stressful, we all know that. So in an interview you have to demonstrate your ability to stay composed and make rational decisions under the pressure, right? So do that. And additional tip for acing job interviews: research the company before going for the interview, which is very obvious. Understand the company's business model, security challenges, and their recent news also. Okay. So if you're interviewing with a financial institution, research how the company address their compliance requirement like PCI DSS. This shows your interest and preparedness over there. Okay. Showcase relevant experiences. Highlight your hands-on experience with security tools and incident response. Discuss specific incident you have handled. like identifying and mitigating any malware outbreak in your previous role, like that. Explain the steps you took in the outcome you got out of it. Prepare the technical questions. Be ready to answer questions about specific technologies, protocols, and security practices. Okay. Demonstrate your continuous learning. Show that you are committed to staying updated in the ever-evolving field of this cybersecurity, because you know the cyber threat landscape keeps on changing, right? So you can put your resumes in your certifications also in your resumes as well, so that you can have a strong hold. And ask thoughtful questions. Prepare questions that show your interest in the role and the company with company's security posture. You can ask about the company's approach for threat hunting, or how they stay updated on emerging threats. That indicates your mindset, proactive mindset. And prepare for behavioral questions. Be ready to discuss how you handle teamwork, conflict, and stress, right? So this is a method which is with the name STAR. Learn about that. STAR method is there. STAR means situational, task, action, result. This will be helping you to structure your answers, right? Review past incident. Be prepared to discuss specific incident you have handled in the past and the lesson which you have learned from it. Okay, you can talk about any, for example, phishing attack you mitigated, how you identified it, the steps taken to contain it, how you improved the security posture so that you can prevent future occurrence in that way. And showcase your problem solving skills. Clearly explain your methodology for tackling security issues. Prepare a portfolio, very important. Create a portfolio for your work, including reports, incident response plan, and security projects which you have done, right? And stay confident and stay honest. Okay, confidence in your abilities and honesty about experience will be a key to your successful interview. And in case if you're not honest, make sure your lies are very honest. You're lying honestly. Okay, so yeah, these will be the quick things. When you're talking about DDoS, you can say, like, if your network is experiencing a distributed denial of service attack, what immediate actions do you take to mitigate the impact and ensure the critical services remain available as well? In case if this questions are asked to you, okay, that your network is experiencing a DDoS attack, what immediate actions do you take to mitigate the impact and make sure the critical services remain available? So you can see, I'll identify the attack, I'll monitor the traffic, I'll use network monitoring tools to identify any unusual spikes in traffic and determine if the increased load is due to a DDoS attack or not. We look out for the patterns in the traffic, like IP address, ports, protocols that are being targeted. We'll also activate the DDoS protection. We'll enable the DDoS mitigation services. Okay, if you're using cloud-based DDoS protection, you'll enable it immediately, like Cloudflare, Akamai, AWS Shield can help to filter malicious traffic. You can contact your ISP also for the same. You can do the rate limiting, and throttling is also there. Okay, we generally go with the implementing rate limiting. We set the rate limits on incoming traffic to prevent any single IP address from overwhelming your servers, right? And throttling is there. Throttle the traffic to specific services to manage load and make sure critical services remain available. And we filter the traffic after that. We block the malicious IPs. We use firewalls or intrusion IPs to block the IP addresses that are known to be part of the attack. All right. And geo blocking can also be there, right? From specific geographical locations, if the attack is coming, we block it. Load balancing is also there, right? We distribute the traffic. We use load balancer to distribute the traffic across multiple servers in the server farm. This will be helping us to prevent single server from getting a lot of load of network. And auto scaling is there. So we dynamically allocate additional resources to handle the increased load, right? And communication, internal communication will be there. We'll inform the SOC team and other relevant stakeholders about the attack and actions being taken. And if the attack is affecting customer facing services, we communicate with customers about the issues and what is being done to resolve it, so that we can provide the regular updates. And as per that, incident response plan will be there. We will follow the predefined response plan for DDoS attacks. We'll make sure all team members know their roles and responsibilities, and we'll document each and everything which is being done over there. Okay.